I finished.
We are on page 16b5, Tet Zayin Amud Bet, and we had just finished the breaking down of the pasuk of David HaMelech to be able to express all these different pieces of what's it called of how they all related to David HaMelech. Okay, 16b5, Tet Zayin Amud Bet. Okay, says the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Tanchum. Rabbi Tanchum said, Bired Rabbi Haya, the son of Rabbi Haya, Ish Kfar Akko, the man from the area of Akko. Amar Rabbi Yaakov Bar Aha. Amar Rabbi Simlai. This is their version of this class is sponsored by, okay, fine. The Amrila Amar Rabbi Tanchum. And some people say, it wasn't all those, it was Amrila Amar Rabbi Tanchum Amar Rav Huna, the Amrila Amar Rav Huna Lichudeh, and some people say Rav Huna said it by himself. He wasn't saying it in the name of anybody else. Talmid Shenida Lichvodo, when you have a case of a student, a Torah scholar, who was Minadeh Lichvodo, for his honor. If you remember, what does that mean? That he did it for his honor? It means that it's not like a full nidui. It's a nidui because the person disrespected a Torah scholar. Niduyav nidui. Still, his nidui is a nidui. So Rashi tells us, right? Look at the first Rashi. Kvar nidui is like an excommunication. Okay? Kvar pirashti lemala. Rashi says, oh, I already told you what this means earlier. Right? So what does that mean? It's not a level of a full excommunication. It's a smaller level because it was done because it was disrespect, not because the person broke a law. All right, not because he taught Torah in public where he did halakha, not like Yehuda Nasi, etc., etc. Niduyav nidui. Still, the nidui is considered to be a nidui, and they have an obligation to fulfill that level of nidui, which means that people can't interact with them. They have to stand 4 amot away, yani social distancing. Yeah.
Torah in public. That little thing. But Moshe, when he came down from Har Sinai, he taught Torah in public.
So the Gemara says that you're allowed to do it when you're teaching in an impossible situation where you're teaching the whole community. Here he was teaching Torah in public, but it wasn't driven by the fact that it was hakel. It was just that he didn't care. He was nonchalantly not doing the thing of Torah in private. Okay? The Tanya, we learned in the Braita. Minudeh l'Rav, minudeh l'Talmid. If someone is minudeh to the rabbi, to the higher level, minudeh l'Talmid, obviously is also excommunicated for the student. Minudeh l'Talmid, what if the person is excommunicated by a lower level Torah scholar? He's not excommunicated to the higher level scholar. Why? What's the logic? Because we don't know if he would have been disrespectful to a bigger rabbi. He was disrespectful to this new young rabbi. But I would never do that to an established rabbi. So therefore, the minudeh does not extend upwards. La Rav hu de'eno minudeh. The rabbi, he's not excommunicated to the higher rabbi. Ha lekule alma. But with regards to everybody else, minudeh, he is excommunicated. So in other words, for everyone below this rabbi, secondary rabbi, everyone below him in chashivut, in importance, in Jewish religious importance, he's excommunicated for them. So we know that's the halakha. Limai.
Who's putting the excommunication? The rabbi or the person on himself realizing he was disrespectful?
Here's when the person was minadeh. The student put him in excommunication for a lack of respect.
The rabbi.
The student rabbi. In other words, the lower level.
Put him in.
Put the guy in nidui. But it doesn't apply to his rabbi. Right. So the guy could go to his rabbi's class and study Torah within 4 amot. Why? Because I never disrespected this level of rabbi. Everyone underneath that is in the same category.
Saying you were disrespectful,
yes.
You're going to
exactly.
And is he allowed to study from beyond 4 amot from that rabbi?
Yes, he would be allowed to interact with anyone from beyond 4 amot. Okay, including the people that are in the nidui. The Gemara says, Limai. What did he put him in excommunication for? Imili dishmaya, if it's talking about something where the person did an issue or a problem against Shamayim, right? Then the halakha is that he would be excommunicated to everybody, because even the rabbi is underneath a affront to HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. En chokhmah Ve'en tivuna, ve'en etzah leneged Hashem, like the pasuk says. There's no wisdom and there's no understanding and there's no advice, which is opposite God. In the face of God, everything pales into insignificance. Elalav. So what are we talking about? The chvor atzmo, where it was done for his own honor. And still, the halakha is, even if he does it for his own honor, the person, the student rabbi was dishonored or felt an element of disrespect. He's allowed to be minadeh, and then that would apply to everyone beneath him. And still, you see from the Braita that the Braita is telling you that it's not excommunicated to his rabbi, but to everyone beneath. Yes. Amar Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef says, Azal Baruch. Tzur ba merabanan, avi dina lenafshe. Tzur ba merabanan means a young Torah scholar. B'milta de psikale. So the halakha is, if you have a young rabbi, he's allowed to rule on a halakha for himself in a case where he's sure, where he's absolutely clear. Now, this is a very interesting categorization, because what are we really talking about over here, right? What are we referring to? Let's say I know the halakha. So obviously, when I act on it, I'm just ruling. I'm not ruling halakha. I'm following halakha. So what are we communicating over here, including by including saying tzur merabana may be able to do this from? So the answer, the Chachamim explain, is that there are times where he's instituting a ruling where it's clear, but it's not part of the actual ruling that exists itself. So he's extrapolating something, but using his status of having learned, of having become a Torah scholar, he's able to do this. So, as an example, let's say he knows the halakha, he's able to act on the halakha that he knows. Sorry? Yeah, okay. So, that's the simple, straightforward understanding of the Gemara. Now, by the way, this tzur b'merabanan, we have it in other places as well in the Torah. It's a categorization issue of a tzur b'merabanan. Let's say, as an example, the Gemara talks about a lost object. So a lost object, what do you normally have to do? You normally have to give signs, and you have to tell the person, the watch, the guy says, I found a watch, and you have to come and say, it was a Rolex, what kind? I don't know Rolex is.
Details.
Yeah, this kind of Rolex, this color, this kind of band, this kind of, face, has a scratch on the right side at the bottom. So you're communicating something which would eliminate the possibility of this being anyone but yours. Okay? That's what a siman is. However, the Gemara says that a tzur b'merabanan is capable of using as a sign what's called tviyat ayin. Oh, I know, I recognize it. This is mine. We'll trust him because he's a tzur b'merabanan. Okay? So that's called tviyat ayin. He looks at it, he recognizes it. Okay? I know this is my pot. I can't tell you it's a scratch or this or that, but I recognize it. I know this is mine. Why? Because we're relying on him. So too, over here we're finding that a tzur b'merabanan is able to be posek dina lenafsheh, but only b'milta de psikale. Only when it's something that he absolutely knows to be the case.
Sorry, Rabbi, what's a sur de Rabbanan?
Tsurba means like a young rabbi. Tsurba b'merabanan, yeah. Okay? Now, let's just look at Rashi for a second. Dina lenafsheh, de amar le, at mechayvet li achi v'achi. The guy could say to someone, this is what you owe me. In a court case. That's how Rashi is explaining. He's talking about it in the laws of finance. The psikale, when is he allowed to do it? Shevadai hulo, when he's sure. V'lo safek. He can't say, look, I think the halakha is that you owe me. I'm fairly certain. He's only able to rule when he's absolutely sure. Now, a higher level than that would be able to be posek halakha, even in a case of safek. Because he's able to say, it's not clear, this is what the halakha should be in this case. Because he's already an established rabbi with a lot of experience in ruling on these matters. The Gemara continues. What are these cases? Ha'utzur b'Rabbanan. There was a certain rabbi who was a young rabbi. Da'avu seno shumaneh. Everybody who knew about him, they understood that this guy is a person who maybe is a little bit shiotzin alav shmuot raot. That people didn't, bad things. There were rumors swirling about him that people didn't like him. Okay, so the Gemara says, what is it talking about? That there were bad rumors about him. Maybe that his character was not of the highest level. Okay, he met privately with people that were not unmarried women. There were people worried about what that meant. So it's a scenario where the person is suspect to maybe not be as upstanding as he seems to present himself. Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda said, Hechi Lavid, what should we do with this guy? He's a Torah scholar. He's not acting appropriately, okay? We don't know for sure, but there's just rumors about the fact that that something is going on. Lishamte, should we, should we put him in cherem? Gemara says, Tzrichi leRabanan. We need him. We need rabbis. We need people graduating. You can't just decide based on a rumor to ruin someone's life, right? Especially if we need the person, the job that he's doing is an important job, okay? Says the Gemara, Lo lishamte, but if we don't, if we don't put him in cherem, kamitchal shema dishmaya, we're going to basically cause that min hashamayim, there's going to be chilul Hashem. If the rabbis don't do anything about this, and people are talking about it as if it's already occurred, and the rabbis are not saying anything, that's a chilul Hashem. That people are saying that the rabbis are not standing up against him and speaking out against him. And the guy's teaching Torah, and we're sanctioning it, we're allowing it to continue, or we're covering it up. Says the Gemara, Amar le Rabbi Bar Chana, he said to Rabbi Bar Chana, Midi shmi alach beha. Did you ever hear of a case like this, where you have a ruling on it, so you know what to do? Amar le Rabbi Bar Chana said to Rabbi Yehuda, Hachi Amar Rabbi Yochanan. This is what Rabbi Yochanan said. My dichtiv, what does it mean in the pasuk? Ki siftei kohen yishmeru da'at, that the lips of the kohen, they guard wisdom, okay? V'torah yivakesh mipiu, and Torah you should request, you should have him ask Torah to learn Torah from him. Ki malach Hashem tzevahotu, because he is an angel of God's hosts. Im domeh harav lemalach Hashem, if your rabbi is considered to be like an angel of Hashem, yivakshu Torah mipiv, then they should want to study with him. V'im lav, and if not, al yivakshu Torah mipiv, they should not actually be studying from him. So what are you worried about? That this rabbi there's not going to be anyone to teach to other rabbis. There's not going to be anyone to teach to other people. Better they shouldn't learn from him. The only person they should learn from is a person of unimpeachable character. But if he's not, then they shouldn't be studying Torah with him anyway. Once he heard that, Shamte Rabbi Yehuda went ahead and he excommunicated this man until they were able to find out more and to decide what to do with him. Yes?
We had this 2 weeks ago, as you explained with the Tochacha, that sometimes you are obliged not to speak if you're going to somewhat harm a person further, but also people are criticized if they should have said something and didn't say something.
Correct. So number one, I'll give you one differentiation. The one differentiation here is, the question is whether or not we should be saying it. So it's a little bit different. Over there, we know for sure you should be saying it. Will it be accepted by the person or not? Right? And as well, should I just sit back or not? I should not sit back. There are factors about its acceptance on behalf of the person. Over here, it's the other way around. Over here, we're not sure. Do we go to the public? We don't have enough information, but people are speaking about it. If people are speaking about it and we're not reacting to it, then that could be a chilul Hashem. It could be misconstrued as if we don't care.
Right.
Or as if there's a blanket, protection and acceptance because he's one of the gang.
Good.
In the police force, they used to call this the blue wall. What's the blue wall? You have a dirty cop.
You don't break the veil.
You have a dirty cop. The cops don't want to turn him in. They don't want to turn on one of their own. So what do? They protect the guy. Meanwhile, the guy's a criminal. He's hurting people. He's doing all sorts of terrible things. But there's a blue wall. No one should think that the rabbis have a black wall. All right? Let's continue. Or a white wall, depending on which community. Okay. Says the Gemara.
It's always black and white.
Or like Michael Jackson said. Okay. L'sof, in the end, itchalish Rav Yehuda. In the end, what happened towards the end of the story? Rav Yehuda actually became sick. Atu Rabbanan l'shailu ebe. the rabbis came around to see how he's doing. And this rabbi also, who was excommunicated, also came together with them to visit him in his sickness. He's still excommunicated, right? Rabbi Yehuda saw him, chayech, he smiled. Okay, some people translate it as laughed, some people say it as smile. Amale, he said to him, Lo mistayech dishamti la'u gavra. It's not enough, right? It's not enough that you excommunicated me, but now I came to visit you and you're laughing at me? Like you put me in excommunication. Fine. But now I came to visit you and you're smiling, laughing at me, you're embarrassing me even more. Amaleh. Rabbi Yehuda said, Lav b'didach b'chayachna. I'm not laughing at you. Ela. Because when I go to the next world, b'dicha de'atai, I will be able to uphold, smile, and lift up myself. Even someone as important as you, as wise as you, lo chanifile. I did not become taken and give you undue honor. Chanifa means to give honor. You know when the people are kissing someone's backside and the guy is a corrupt politician, or that's called chanifa. And it's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing. So you welcome a guy to the synagogue because he's a politician, and you'll give him all the kavod in the world. What are you doing? In the house of Hashem, you're taking a rasha, you're standing him up there, and you're kissing his toes because maybe he'll give you some money. It's terrible. It's a huge chilul Hashem. So when people are doing this, you have to be very careful in exactly what you're saying. We've had politicians here, not that many, since I became the rabbi. I try to make this a politic-free zone. We've had. When I stand up and I speak about them, I'm very careful with what I say. Also what I don't say. Guy's the best guy, Sadika Tamar Yifrah, Ka'erez Balvanon Yiske. Disaster. It's a misrepresentation. And in the house of Hashem, with the Torah behind you, you're putting someone up there and saying that this is what a chilul Hashem that is. So you have to be very careful, in how you speak. That's called chanifa.
He loves his mother.
He loves his mother. Some people, all you could say is his mother loves him. Okay. So the point is, my friends, it's a very important element to understand that you don't show favoritism and kowtow to rishaim, to people that are not good. So the rabbi said, I'm smiling. I'm at the end of my life. You were a person of such great importance, of such great Torah. But when the push came to shove, I asked Rabbi Bar Hana, what should be the halakha? The rabbis needed you. The community needed your teaching. But I was not afraid to do what was right. So when you walked in here, I was reminded of how impressive and how important a person you are. And I remembered that I did the right thing, which could have come at great personal expense. And I'm smiling that in Shamayim, I'll be able to say, I did the right thing. I'm not laughing at you at all. I'm just smiling over in Shamayim that I was able to stand up and do the right thing even under great pressure. The Gemara says, Nach nafshed Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda eventually passed away. Ata lebe midrasha. The rabbi who was excommunicated now came to the Beit Midrash. Shiruli, he said, undo it. The one who put the excommunication on, he passed away now. Amudei Rabbanan, the rabbi said, Gavra dechashiv Rabbi Yehuda lekahachi dilishelach. We don't have a rabbi on the level of Rabbi Yehuda who's able to take off the excommunication.
We talked about that before.
Lifetime ban.
Not allowed to.
Ela zile gabe Rabbi Yehuda nesi'ah. Go to Rabbi Yehuda nesi'ah, Rabbi Yehuda nasi. Dilishelach. He should allow you to, because he's great enough to be able to do it. So what did they mean when they said, we don't have someone, but you should go to him? If there was him, then you could go to him. The answer is he wasn't near. He wasn't in Beit Midrash. Azal he went to Yehuda Nisiyah. Amalei Rabbi Ami. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi said to Rabbi Ami, Puk ayin bidine. He says, before I rule on this, I want you to go out and look into the case and tell me what the deal is. Im mibayele lemishre. If we need to, right, let's release him from it. And if not, not. Now that's a very interesting expression. Im mibayele lemishre. Right? What does that mean? Im mibayele. Mibayele means, do we need to? So it's interesting because that would sound like, how would you translate that word? If you say it means, if we need to release him, let's release him. From the next, what would if we need to mean?
He has a function.
What's the
He has a
function?
in life
Like we need him to teach.
Yeah.
So that can't be. Why? Because the whole excommunication
Was based on it.
was based on, even though they needed him, they still did it.
Yeah.
So in mibayle cannot mean, that's the correct translation, but it cannot mean that here in this context, okay? So it has to mean something else, and what are we saying it means? It means if it's appropriate. Like maybe he learned his lesson, maybe there's been some resolution to the rumors that people are saying about him. Maybe, as an example, I just want to point out, because we're learning Gemara together, what would make it proper to release him in your mind?
He made good deeds.
One did he do
He
teshuvah?
made good deeds,
Something's
yeah.
hurting his life or it should be.
Number two, maybe it's too harsh on him, a punishment. Good. What else? I want to show you all the factors that could have gone into play. What else?
Maybe he wasn't guilty of what he was accused of.
So there's a resolution to the rumors. We know that it's not true. What else?
The benefit of the doubt.
Sorry?
The benefit
Benefit
of
of
the
the
doubt.
Well, they always could have given him that. So it can't be the benefit of the doubt, because then that would have been then too. Unless new facts came to life that open up an opportunity for benefit of the doubt. That could be.
Even though he has these flaws, maybe him teaching Torah, the positive ramifications will outweigh it.
But didn't we know that first time?
Yes.
So in other words, that can't be. Tweak it, JC.
There a time factor?
Maybe we learned that we
Maybe he's paid his dues. Maybe it's been long enough. You know, there's more in what JC is saying.
Can I build off?
After re-examining it,
Yeah?
He changed.
What changed?
His
The need for
his
him.
influence.
His influence. So let's say, as an example, at the time the community needed him 10. And that was the amount that they needed him, the rabbi, 10. Let's say now, other people that were fulfilling that role, they all died.
They need him more.
Now they need him 20. They need him 40. So maybe the need versus the risk kind of rose. This is not a case where we know the guy did a crime. It's a case there's only a rumor. There's one other thing that we may have
But it's
fixed.
not a rumor.
If he paid his dues already, meaning
Yeah.
he already.
So we said, if he paid his dues, is one
It's
answer.
not a rumor to the rabbi that put him in excommunication.
It wasn't obviously a simple. Obviously, it was not a simple rumor. In a regular case, you would just say lashon hara. You don't believe it.
Ahavat Israel.
What?
Ahavat Israel.
Yeah, but there was Avat Yisrael too before. You have to explain what changed from then to now.
They backtracked to the source of the rumor.
So then that would mean that there was a resolution. Good, that would be included in resolution. There's one bit that people are not catching here.
The
Yeah,
guy who spread the rumor said, I lied.
that's also a resolution. That's another version of resolution. Also true. There's one bit that you guys are missing. Remember, what was the reason? What was one of the main reasons we said that it was important for them to put him in cherem? Because of the Chilul Hashem factor. Yeah? What if all the people, like as an example, the people that were busy talking about the rumor, they all died. So older generation, nobody even knows about it now.
So no Chilul Hashem.
So the Chilul Hashem is the factor. What if the Chilul Hashem factor fell? It's not the same case anymore. So if, as an example, back then, the reason why we did it is not because of the rumor. It's because how could we not say something? Or, by the way, let's say nobody died, but nobody cares.
But you never know that, though. in Lashon Hara. You'd say,
I know, no, you don't know.
you say that you can't never know how extent, how far.
True. But here, there's an assessment to be made. What is the size of the Chilul Hashem that forces our hand to do something? And maybe that's no longer the case. Okay? So all of these are possibilities. And they could all mean immi ba'ale. So he tells him, go look into the case. Rabbi Ami, puk chazeh, puk ayin bedine. Immi ba'ale mishrele. Sharile, then you should release him. Ayin Rabbi Ami bedine. So he looked into it. Sava le mishrele. Based on whatever factors we just discussed, maybe, he decided or he thought that he should take it off. Amar Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani Araglav. Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani stood up and he said, ומה השפחה של בית רבי? לא נהגו חכמים קלות ראש בנידויי 3 שנים. יהודה חברנו הלך עד כמה וכמה. The Gemara says a fascinating case, right? Where the maid servant of the shivcha shel bet Rebbe lo nagu kalut rosh b'niduya. When his maids, there was a scenario of nidui involving the maid servant of Rabbi Yehuda. Out of respect for Rabbi Yehuda, we didn't move, we didn't budge from that excommunication for 3 full years. Here, where the subject matter is not a nidui that the maid servant of Rabbi Yehuda said. There, this maid servant put someone in nidui. Who would think that you have to listen to the excommunication of the maid servant, of Rabbi Yehuda? The answer is, out of respect for Rabbi Yehuda, we listened to what she said for 3 years, to the person she put into excommunication. Here, the person who put the excommunication was one of our contemporaries. Not even one of our contemporaries. One that was greater than all of us. So we're not going to respect what he said. We're just going to undo it so easily. Alachat kama v'kama. Amar Rabbi Zera. Everyone understand what we said so far?
I'm a little lost, to be honest.
So in other words, it took us 3 years. He comes in, Rabbi Ami comes in, and he says, okay, let's undo it.
Undo what?
The excommunication on this Torah scholar that had the rumors about him.
From a maidservant.
No. We're going back to the first case.
Separate example.
Yeah, the first example was they put him in cherem because of the rumors, because of the Chilul Hashem. They came to the Bet Midrash after Rabbi Yehuda died, and he said, okay, take it off, he's dead. They said, there's nobody here big enough, as big as Rabbi Yehuda, to undo it, except for Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Go to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Goes to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says to his rabbinic clerk in the Bet Din, he says, look into it. If he should be released from it, release him. Okay. He looks into it. He's ready to release him. He comes into the Bet Midrash to make the announcement. Rabbi Shmuel Bar Nachman, he says, hold up. When Rabbi Yehuda Nasi's maidservant, in another case, put someone in excommunication, all she was a maidservant.
And she had the right to do it.
We respected the excommunication that she put for 3 years on this random person.
How does she have the right to do that?
She did not. But we respected it because of her proximity to a Talmid Chacham. For 3 years we respected it. You're going to tell me that the excommunication of Rabbi Yehuda is going to be undone just like that? Surely, if we gave that excommunication such a long runway, we should do at least the same here.
From a time standpoint.
From a time standpoint, from a taking seriously standpoint.
The rabbi who put him in excommunication died within 3 years of putting him in excommunication.
Yes or no? It's because the point doesn't have to necessarily be 3 years. He's saying it doesn't have to be. It could also be. The point he was making was you just walked in willy-nilly. You're undoing it. There should be some sort of a process here. There should be some sort. 3 years we gave the maidservant.
It's precedent-like.
Yeah. Okay.
What's the ultimate resolution?
What do you
for, nidui? Like, how far could you push the excommunication?
So we
We
said.
got 3 years here.
So we said there's a minimum. There's not a maximum. Usually the maximum is by some form of resolution.
But what's the person's way to just keeps going higher? Does he appeal it?
So it's not about an appeal. It's about changing your ways, fixing what was done. So
To the person
fixing
that
the
could decide to unlike-
fixing the disrespect.
to that
Exactly.
person that can let you off?
Yeah, or paying the money,
whatever.
or
So if you
depending
go
on the
for
excommunication.
it, if you go for it,
Yeah, as long as the guy is in contempt of court, as long as the guy is not listening, he's maintaining his intransigent ways.
So there's no time minimum?
Time minimum, yes. Not time maximum. Depends, as we said, for nidui, nizifa, shamta, cherem. That's the sugya we learned before. Avail 1 day for nizifa, not for nidui. For nizifa, nidu 30 days. Okay. Says the Gemara. Amar Reb Zera. Reb Zera said, Mai de kaman. I don't understand. Da'ata idna. How are we going to explain this? Da'ata idna. I sam be midrasha. This rabbi, Rav Shmuel Bar Nachman, just came to Bet Midrash. Da'akama shaneh lo ata. He hasn't been for years in the Bet Midrash. Maybe he's learning at home. Maybe he's elderly. But on this day, this rabbi came. Shma mina lo mi baile mishrele. It seems that in heaven, they don't want the guy getting out. Let's just review.
Because he showed up on
Rabbi Ami comes to the Beit Midrash to make the announcement. On this day, of all days, Rav Shmuel Bar Nachman, who never comes, this day comes for breakfast in the class. They make the announcement, Rav Shmuel Bar Nachman, he gives his objection. Yeah? Rav Zera says, if on this day only he came, it must be from Shamayim. They're telling us that they don't want the excommunication to be undone.
Well, I would have thought a different thing. I would have thought maybe he's got a vendetta against the guy. And
No, he didn't know he was coming. It wasn't like it was announced. He just happened to be there.
He just happened to come.
Yeah. Gemara says, Lo sharele. When Rabbi Yehuda Nasi saw this, he did not remove the excommunication. Because he also interpreted it as a sign. As a sign, exactly. Gemara says, Nafak, he left. Kika bachi va'azil, he's walking along the way, and he's crying. This sage, this rabbi who was excommunicated, he's crying. Ata zibore v'tarke a'amate. A bee came along and gave him a bite, unfortunately, in the place where the sun don't shine. V'shachiv, and he passed away. I guess from some form of maybe an allergic reaction or something. They brought him to the cave of the great Hasidim, where they would bury the great Hasidim. And what happened? They wouldn't let him in. We'll see exactly what it means. They brought him to the cave, to the burial place of the Dayanim, and there it was able to bring in. So the Dayanim, which was the heads of the court, they're a little bit lower level than the Hasidim, okay? And what's it called? And there he was let in. So what does it mean he was let in? In fact, the Gemara describes this in multiple places, where there were scenarios where someone was being brought to be buried, and the door, the entrance, had a snake wrapped around the handles of the door, indicating we don't want to let. By the way, I didn't have time for this in yesterday's class, but this is actually happens in yesterday's class. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, when he dies, he's buried in a cave. Comes time to bury Rabbi Elazar ben Rabbi Shimon, they bring his burial to bury him next to his father in the cave. There's a snake at the entrance to the cave, won't let them come in. They say, open up so that the son should be buried next to his father. The snake moves, lets him bury Rabbi Elazar ben Rabbi Shimon. What happens after that? The son of Rabbi Elazar passes away. Who's the son of Rabbi Elazar?
the grandson.
No. The grandson of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai.
Right.
Who's the grandson? Rabbi Yossi ben Rabbi Eliezer. Also one of the great Tanaim. They bring him to the cave. The snake's there. What do they say? Let the son be buried. His father. Snake don't move.
How about the grandson of the grandfather?
Doesn't matter. They're not letting him in.
Snake don't move.
Yeah. It's Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Elazar were on a tremendously high level. They should be buried next to each other. Now this is something that people are not necessarily so aware of. Halakha says that there's supposed to be different places in the cemetery. For different levels. Now there's a Rasha space, okay? And I said, but there's also, even amongst...
We have Kohanim area.
There's Rishaim, but there's also Rishaim Gemurim. Like complete Rishaim. Then there's also Sadiq, like good people. Then there's like complete Sadiqim. Why? Because that area is a place of extreme holiness, or vice versa, and you don't ever want to bring it down by putting in the body of someone that's not on that level. So they brought him to the cave of the Hasidim. Snake says
He was
no.
still excommunicated when he died.
Huh?
He was excommunicated when he died. Right?
No, not excommunicated. But he was not on the level of the Ma'arav, the
The
Hasidim.
guy that died from the bee sting,
Yeah?
he never got released, right?
No, he was never released.
Never released.
No, he died in his
He was in
excommunication.
a state of excommunication
Yes.
when he had to get buried.
But they buried him in the place of the judges.
Dayanim.
Yeah. Now, this what's it called? Is still, this nikuda is still a very high level. The cave of the Dayanim is also very, very high level. So the guy was on a very high level. But on some level, he was not in the place of the Hasidim. And I think to myself, maybe the reason for that, because I'm left with a question. What's my question? My question is, he either did or he didn't. You know, such thing as being half pregnant. He either did or he didn't. If he didn't, the whole thing is fake, and he should be in the cave of the Hasidim. And if he did, why is he in the cave of the Dayanim? The answer is, he didn't. He didn't. But we have a line that says, V'tem nikiyim, and you should be clean in the eyes of God, Be'enei Elokim ve'adam, in the eyes of man as well. So the rabbi, who even though he was a great person, even though he never did anything wrong, but he subjected himself to a situation where people could have doubts about him, and that means that he's not part of that highest echelon. So he's 100% pure, but the Torah demands of the purest people that they should be clean, not only in the eyes of heaven in terms of what really happened, but also in terms of the narrative. It shouldn't be caused that Chilul Hashem. So he's buried in the end in the place of the. Now I just want to add one piece. One second. Because then he wouldn't be buried in the place of Dayanim.
But he did get excommunicated, disrespected Chilul Hashem with the guy.
No, he didn't disrespect him.
No, when he got the excommunication.
The excommunication was because they would have rumors about him that he did something wrong, not because he disrespected anybody. There were rumors that he was doing something wrong in the community, something inappropriate.
Public trial.
Yeah, it's public trial, exactly. That he meets with women. He meets unmarried women, and maybe he was giving them advice. Maybe he was doing whatever he was doing. He wasn't a young rabbi. No, right? They didn't start with a young rabbi this time. This was this was a rabbi who was teaching the rabbis, very high level. So that's the end. The end of this is that they buried him in the Ma'artad Dayanim. Why? Because he was righteous.
So they cleared his name, maybe.
But the burial of that there still cleared his name. But at the same time, it still taught a lesson of how careful a person needs to be. They say perception, unfortunately, in this world is reality. So people, they'll assume and they think that they know what's true, and that causes Chilul Hashem. Now, I just want to add two little pieces. So the Sfarim say, I think it's the name of the Arizal. Now, why was the snake wrapped around, specifically the snake? Why couldn't God, make an avalanche cover the mouth of the cave? Why did God have to make sure that Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Shimon could not get in by having a snake there?
Gan Eden.
Huh?
Connected to Gan Eden.
Excellent. Says the Arizal, what the snake was there to communicate was that Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, they did not die because they deserved to have the taste of death as humans. The only reason why they died was because of the story with the snake in the Garden of Eden, where death was decreed upon all humanity and none can escape it. So the snake was to illustrate Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai.
For a different purpose.
They died because every human has to die. But there was no avon. There was no avon in their hands to die. About Rabbi Shimon and about Rabbi Elazar. Yeah. Now I thought to myself,
They died very holy.
They died very holy. I thought to myself, so then according to the Arizal, what does that tell you about the snake that stopped Rabbi Yossi?
He did
He was
something.
supposed
He
to
did
die at
deserve
that
to
time.
He had something.
You're saying he did deserve to die. I would say
something
He wasn't
that he
at the
did.
level.
he wasn't at their level. Then I would say then the second time it should have been something other than a snake. So there's two ways to look at this. One way is the snake is always there to illustrate that, and then the second way to look at it is Rabbi Yossi also was on that level. He also was only dying because of the avon of the Nachash. However, he still wasn't on their level. So the Nachash is there, but not exactly. That's the other way to understand it. The Arizal says this, by the way. The Arizal says this on the pasuk, Ki yeh beish chet mishpat mavet, when there will be on a person chet, a sin, mishpat mavet, which means that the person should receive capital punishment. He should die, right? V'talita oto al etz. You have to hang the body on the tree. The halakha was that after the action, the death penalty was administered, They hung the body for till the end of the day, so that people should learn the lesson, and then they took it down out of respect and they buried the body. But everyone needed to know, because the punishment is meant to be a form of deterrent, of a lesson, okay? So that's one way of learning the pasuk. The Arizal has an alternate understanding of the pasuk. He says, what does the word chet mean in Hebrew? It doesn't mean sin. The Christian interpretation of the word chet is sin. But we have an example of chet with regards to lahachti et hamatara, says the pasuk, which means to miss the target. In Judaism, the word chet means missing. It's not there. You missed the mark. Says the Arizal, chiyeh beish chet mishpat mavet. When in a person we're missing a sin, mishpat mavet, we're missing a reason that he should have died. V'talita oto al etz, and you hang that person's death on etz, on the tree of the etz hadat. The only reason this person is passing away is because of that tree, is because of that nachash. Okay, let's continue here. Says the Gemara, "Mai ta'ama." So why was his body accepted in the cave of the judges? De'avad ki Rabbi Eli, because he listened to the ruling of Rabbi Eli. The Tanya, it says, Rabbi Eli Omer, if a person sees that his Yetzirah is coming on him, he should go to a place where they don't recognize him. He should wear black clothing, and wrap himself in black wrapping, and let him do over there what he needs to do. And Shamayim should not be the name of heaven should not be sullied in public. What the Gemara is expressing over here is that if he had some sort of problem, it should have been something that he made sure was never the topic of public conversation. There shouldn't have been a chilul Hashem b'farhesia. So therefore, even if he didn't do it, the answer should have been that he should have done something. He should have been more hidden. Let's just finish with this. The Gemara says, what is the story of Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani when he talks about the maidservant of Rabbi Yehuda? Shifchash Rabbi Yehuda, the maidservant of Rabbi Yehuda, Mahi. What's that case? The Amta, the Bir Rabbi Chazitela Ugavra, the maidservant of Rabbi Yehuda, she saw a certain person. The Have Machi Libno Gadol. He was hitting his son, who was already a grown boy. Amra Lehevi Ahu Gavra B'Shamta. That person, she said, who's hitting his grown son, should be put in excommunication. Dekavar, because he's being over, mishum v'lifnei velo ditem michshol. He's being over and isur in the Torah of putting a stumbling block in front of a blind man. Why? The son is already not a kid. He's already a grown man, 18, 19 years old. What happens if his father's going to hit him? The son might hit him back. That's considered placing a stumbling block in front of a blind man. You're causing him to do avon. What's the halakha? The Tanya, we learned in the Braita, what does it mean to put a stumbling block in front of a blind man? The pasuk is talking about a scenario where someone hit his elderly son, and his oldest son, and the son then might strike him back. Who caused that sin to be done? The father, by doing it. In fact, this is a halakha in Shulchan Aruch. Halakha Shulchan Aruch says, to hit a son that's already grown is lifnei iver lo titen michshol, because you're causing that. But look at this, the maid servant of Rabbi Yehuda was already a Torah scholar. In fact, we find numerous cases like this with Tevi. Tevi, who was the servant of Rabban Gamliel, who the rabbis would sometimes go to him to ask him the halakha. Remarkable stuff. Just from hanging around, he learned so much. And eventually, Rabbi Yehuda freed him, and he became a full-fledged Jew.
Was
Tevi.
Jewish before?
No, he was a Kanaani who then becomes halakha as a Eved Kanaani has obligations in mitzvot like a woman. During the duration of his service. If he's ever freed, then the halakha is he becomes, with his freedom, he becomes a full-fledged Jew. That's halakha by a shifcha. Okay, let's end over here on Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph 17a 3. Baruch Hanei Le'olam. Amen.